Everyone, welcome to episode 406 of the All Dolphins podcast. We're today on this Thursday, November 14th, 2024. I am joined by Adam Beasley of Pro Football Network. How are you, Senor Beasley?
Oh, I am fantastic. We are like 2 weeks out from Thanksgiving. Canadian Thanksgiving was like in April, right? I mean, that was long time
It's
ago.
in
But
October.
we in the United States of America celebrate things in the fall. So 2 weeks from Thanksgiving, football season's heating up, right? I mean, we're getting some definition. Certainly in the AFC, there's 6 teams that we have a pretty good idea they're going to be in, and then everybody else. I mean, really, all the way down to 3-7, I think has a chance still.
Yep, and whether the Dolphins actually have a good chance to make the playoffs or whether they'll make the playoffs will be one of the topics we will be discussing along with the news of the day as well. And by the way, yeah, you're kind of mocking my Canadianism there, Bees. I've probably lived in the U.S. as long as you've been alive. So there. Okay, I just called myself old. Anyway, Canadian Thanksgiving was in October. Before we start, I am remiss, and I was shamed by one of the commenters, and you're right, I absolutely owe one of these to Perk for remembering. And Bees, did you remember this? The Dolphins are facing the Raiders on Sunday, and among the debate of the Tua and his tackle against the Rams, he remembered Antonio Pierce was one of those who was suggesting that Tua should retire.
Okay, so do you think, like, first of all, a head coach should not be weighing in on the health of another team's player? Let's begin with that, right?
Former player, caring former player.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Did he have any of the information that the Miami Dolphins or Tua Tagovailoa had? No, obviously not. But it was scary as all get out to see the way that Tua threw, caution to the wind and went cranium first into what's Roseboom's first name?
Christian
Roseboom's shin. Like that was. Yeah, man. Like our group text on our, not to give away secrets, but our group text on our beat text was lighting up when we saw that because, look, I mean, you don't have to be a great student of the game to remember that just, 11 months ago that Tua finished a game that we didn't even know he had a concussion, but we did see his performance dip. And then obviously late in the first half of that Rams game, he didn't look great. Then he turned around the second half and he's totally fine. But it is kind of a microcosm of how every time he has even a borderline scary hit, the entire world's going to be holding its breath. People who like Antonio Pierce, like popping off without all the information, will jump to conclusions, and it's just the reality of what his life's going to be. I do think that Tua could mitigate that some. He doesn't seem to be particularly interested in doing so, does he?
No, and I think it's misplaced pride as far as I'm concerned. And I put this on social media. If only there was a Hall of Fame quarterback who had access to Tua, whose career was spent basically avoiding tackles after offensive turnovers. If only there was that kind of guy who was available to talk to Tua. I don't know. Wait, Dan Marino.
Oh, Dan Marino.
Don't you think Dan Marino at some point should get involved? So, hello, McFly. Hello.
By the way, that movie turns 40 years old next year, and we still do not have flying cars.
Okay. That's a good point. November 12th is going to, was that November 12th, 1955 is when it was?
Yeah, that's right. That is right. The flux capacitor. We need to time travel to a time when Tua didn't get cussed so much, right? He had always been injury prone. I mean, we had always kind of kept our fingers crossed. Even in Alabama, like before he had the hip, I think he had now maybe two, at least one of those tightrope surgeries for the high ankle sprain. So he's never avoided danger. But there's going to be an expiration date on his career if he doesn't. He just cannot continue to do that. There was a very real chance that he could have got a concussion the way he tackled there, and then he's out for the season, done. And you're talking about, what do the Dolphins do in the offseason 2025 if he suffers a fifth one? Now, again, you cannot play scared, obviously, and you see, Dolphins are going to have probably an abundance of caution with Kendall Fuller. They're going to keep him out, he suffered his second concussion, I believe, of the season, right? I mean, he's going to be out. No one's going to hold their breath every time Kendall Fuller goes for a tackle. I get it. But I just don't know what it is about Tua that it makes him so susceptible to putting himself in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, again, I think part of it is he's competitive and all that. Second of all, I think there's some misplaced pride and ego there. And look, however you feel about Tua, by the way, for the record, folks, I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think every single solitary throw he makes is, that we need to alert the Hall of Fame. There's a difference. Okay, nuance, folks, nuance. But wherever you sit on the Tua scale, I think we can all agree he's not built to last. He cannot play the same way Josh Allen can play, because Josh Allen now weighs him by 50 pounds and he's much bigger. Tua has to play smart. And again, I mean, like I said, Marino would almost turn around and sprint to the sideline after a turnover, even though Dave Hyde showed a clip of him actually making a tackle downfield. That was one time. That was the second season and one time. But I remember a lot more times where he would be like, I'm getting the hell out of the way. And that's fine. This is where Tua's more important at quarterback than is making the tackle.
Well, and not only that, I think it was Drew Brees who was on the pregame show on Countdown on Monday. And, I mean, that's the comp for Tua. Like, that is who you want his career to be, is Drew Brees. I think that the Dolphins would be thrilled. And Drew Brees, early in his career, jacked his shoulder up because he did something stupid. And he even acknowledged the other night on Monday night it was stupid, trying to jump on a fumble. And that's, and he blew out his shoulder, and they say the one thing quarterbacks do not do, it's you fight every impulse. And again, I know Tua talked about football DNA, and that's just who these guys are. There's a reason the average life expectancy of a career is 3.5 years or whatever. I mean, the game is so violent and so fast and so hard that you cannot give fate even more of a chance to hurt you. And that's what Tua does. And we're going to be, it might be a month from now, it could be 6 years from now, but we're going to be talking about the one play that he shouldn't have done, and he's probably not going to play football again after that. Like it's just, I don't want to be the merchant of death here, but it's like he's not going to learn. And until that changes, until he gets it through to your point, McFly's head, you're going to just be on pins and needles every time anything off script happens. And that's not tenable, because football is an off script sport.
Speaking of Back to the Future, I forgot to make the point earlier. If you get a chance, check out the clip of Tom Wilson, the actor who played Biff. He does a song talking about Stop Asking the Question. And it's about his encounters with fans who all want to know about Back to the Future. It's actually very funny. But yeah, and here's the other point that needs to be made too. In 2022, bad decisions, like the play against Cincinnati, where if you remember the play, he had this big defensive tackle right in front of him, and he tried to juke around him, and it didn't work, instead of maybe just going. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, last season, he was going down. He was getting rid of the ball, not holding it in the pocket, and he was going down if there was traffic in front of him. Go back to doing that.
Oh, I don't think he liked that. Like, I think that was so foreign to him. I think it was like, honestly, like he dropped weight for a reason. Like, he was, lumbering Tua last year, and he stayed healthy because he couldn't make those extra cuts and try to extend plays. And they thought that he could drop the weight and still have the neck muscle and all that he needs. Jiu-jitsu. We haven't talked about jiu-jitsu in a while, but they thought he had all that. Mm-hmm. But he's like, okay, I'm skinny Tua again. I'm mobile Tua again. I'm going to use it. And when he does that, he gets himself into trouble. He really does. Now, again, having a linebacker running full speed right at you after a pick six, and it's either you or a touchdown, I'm going to give him a little bit more grace on that. Now, maybe you could have, I don't know. He said he didn't want to throw his shoulder into it and all that, but maybe you could have done something to guide him to the sideline, or I don't know. It's hard, it's easy to second guess, but when he got hurt against the Bills, that was skinny, mobile Tua trying to make something happen. And I don't know. If he hasn't gotten the idea yet, if it hasn't figured it out yet, I don't know what it's going to take, aside from him putting on 30 pounds and not being able to move around as fast as he did, and just taking that option off the table.
Yeah, and there's a balance, and I get it if you're seeing a guy going back down the field for a touchdown, but I think a pick six in the second quarter is not worth your what would it be, your fifth concussion.
Okay,
Anyway,
so if he would have pulled a Bridgewater, what would your reaction have been?
what's a Bridgewater?
Oh, you don't remember that?
Bridgewater broke his bone in his finger trying to make a tackle at the goal line, no less. When he wasn't saving the touchdown anyway, which was even more stupid.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
The other one was there was a fumble and he literally just stepped aside so the guy could run for a touchdown.
I don't know that it would be, again, if the game's on the line or season's not on the line. It's, to me, it's not black and white. It's a tough call. Okay, let's move on. This is a couple of our colleagues threw out this idea of the Dolphins sending a message by releasing David Long Jr. And to me, I'm like, what message? That he wasn't good enough anymore? I mean, he just wasn't playing very well. They kept him on the roster after demoting him, and then they got an upgrade. What they feel is an upgrade with Tyrell Dotson, who they claimed off waivers, and then David Long becomes superfluous. They don't need him. They have enough linebackers. Of course, the argument there could be made, you couldn't have kept David Long Jr. over Channing Tindall, but maybe they still think Channing Tindall can be developed. David Long was in the last year of his contract. I don't think it's a message whatsoever, because if they're going to send a message, you send it after a loss, not after you just won. But,
yeah, no, I agree with you. And also, they really, really like David Long.
Yeah.
Like, he's a guy they have a lot of respect for. They made him a captain. Well, obviously the players made him a captain, but he was seen as a worthy captain in the eyes of this coaching staff for a reason. Honestly, I think they did right by him. I think they knew he wasn't going to play for this team anymore, that they needed the roster spot to get better. And they're just like, hey, look, if you can go catch on with somebody, have at it. Like, we're going to give you the chance. Like, look, when you make a move like the Dolphins did, there's a non-zero chance that he goes to the Cincinnati Bengals and he makes a play that helps the Bengals beat you out for a playoff spot. Like, there's always a chance that, something like that backfires. Like, it could. I think they did right by the guy. He's still going to get every dime that he was owed.
correct.
It's not like he's hurt financially. I'm sure he would, he would miss playing football if this is it for him. But I mean, if there was a real message sent, it was Raheem Mostert this week.
Yep.
It wasn't David Long, who had lost his starting job already. Raheem Mostert, 8 snaps, 5 snaps, something like that on offense, and
9 actually. I'll look it up while you continue your point. Go ahead.
For the first time in his Dolphins career, when he was on the 45 or whatever man active game day roster, the first time ever, he did not get a carry. That was not an accident. Now, I know they used a lot of 3 wide in ways they didn't before, and there was no Alec Ingold, so they were going to have different personnel groupings. I get that, but it was almost exclusively the Devon Achane show, almost exclusively. So that to me tells me, A1, they're fed up with the fumbling, and it tells me, B2, that they're still not 100% sold in Jalen Wright. Like, we've been pounding the drum for a while about, hey, get Jalen Wright more work, get more work. They feel no compunction whatsoever to do that. And it's funny because this was causation correlation the first time in like a month that they couldn't run the ball. They had such trouble running the football inside, outside, no matter what they tried. The Rams were really, really good. They got some good edge defenders, young edge defenders, starting with Jared Verse. So, if you're talking about messages being sent, I think it was to the guy who's still on the team, not the guy who's looking for a job.
That deserves one of these bees. That's an excellent.
That makes it all fluttery in here.
Yeah, there you go. You're a little flutter. Yeah. But no, that is an excellent point, and that would be the message. And of course, it's interesting too when they talk and the coaches they try to be like nice and never throw players under the bus. Like when we've was talking about David Long, it's always, no, he's a very good player. It's just we wanted to give Walker an opportunity. But dude, our eyeballs told us that David Long was not having a good year. His metrics, if you're a believer in Pro Football Focus or not, I don't know. I don't believe Pro Football Network has gotten into the player grading aspect of things yet. I'm sure that's to come at Pro Football Network at some point, right, Bees?
We do quarterbacks, we do offense and defense, but linebackers are just so hard, man, because you have no idea what their assignments are. You really don't.
Yeah. Excellent point. But if you believe in the PFF, he's the lowest graded linebacker in the entire NFL.
Well, and look, it was that Cardinals game that he just completely fell apart.
Yeah.
I think it was the game here. So now the only game they play here in a month and a half is Arizona, right? And he couldn't tackle, couldn't cover. Those are two bad characteristics for an inside linebacker. If you can't cover, you can't tackle. Not much else you're able to do. It's not like you're, a defensive tackle and you can at least take up space.
Correct. So again, this idea that it's like a message. No, the dude was not performing in the second and last year of his 2-year contract with the Dolphins. And they probably figured out they wouldn't re-sign him. Now, I would like for them to re-sign and have discussions with Calais Campbell, who said today he's going to basically wait until the end of the season to decide what he's going to do as far as next year, whether you play or not. I'm not sure if I'm the Dolphins. I don't approach him right now like, dude, Calais, come back. Come on, buddy. Come on. Calais, come on. One of these.
Oh, there it is. That's 3 hearts in one podcast. Look at that.
Oh, I can
know. Thanksgiving. It's like Valentine's Day around here.
It's just too cool that I like doing it. So go ahead.
If you're the Dolphins, absolutely, you want to see if you can get Calais Campbell back. But I'm still drafting defensive tackle high. Like you have to, like, particularly their pass rush is still not great. I know it was better this past week, but it's still not great. You have to get better at the defensive line at the edge. Their front seven. I think you could throw a dart at any of those positions in the first round and be happy with what you come out with. So certainly Calais Campbell, excellent player. They 100% made the right value choice, Calais over Christian Wilkins, right? They didn't know they're going to get Calais when they got Wilkins walk, but you're getting a hell of a lot more for whatever it is, $2-3 million out of Christian Wilkins than you would have gotten for $20 million out of Christian, out of Campbell than you would have out of Wilkins. You know what I'm saying? So,
no, the only thing that Wilkins gave you last year that you're not getting from Campbell this year is the number of snaps, because one's 38 years old, but I mean, he's well. And then, of course, Wilkins got the bad break. He's got the Jones fracture. He was eligible to come off IR this week to face his former team, as I mentioned yesterday. Not happening. In fact, there was a radio talk show host in Las Vegas suggesting his season might be over already.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of bringing him back? Honestly, that's the thing. Right. It was like, and I think the Dolphins would have had a lot of those decisions if they would have lost on Monday. Like Tyreek's acknowledged today in the locker room that surgery is a consideration for him. It's just a question of basically when, not if. And I think he said it's going to continue to get worse throughout the season. That wasn't great to hear. Yeah. But I think, if the Dolphins lose their next 2 games somehow, which would be absolutely bleeping devastating for this franchise to lose to the Raiders and the Patriots. But if that happens, you play everybody young. Don't play a single veteran the rest of the way. And honestly, I would sit Tua. I would play Skyler the rest of the way. I would not. If they are, what would they be at then? 3-8?
Can I start this conversation right now? They're not losing to Las Vegas. New England. I mean, Vegas has nothing. I'm sorry. They have Max Crosby, who you wrote about on Pro Football Network today. Check it out, pfn.com under Adam H. Beasley. I mean, go ahead off the top of your head. Name me other than the quarterback. Name me another player on that team. I mean, it's like a massively nondescript team, which devoid of talent. They had they traded away Devontae Adams. They lost Josh Jacobs in free agency. Malcolm Kuntz is a decent pass rusher, but
they have the great Jacoby Myers. They've got
tight ends are good. Their young tight ends are good.
Yeah. And Brock Bowers, to your point. Rest. Hey, you know who they got a defensive tackle?
Oh, two former, not one, but 2 former Dolphins, in addition to Christian Wilkins. Very good guy, John Jenkins, and more prickly Adam Butler.
Yeah, they're back. Oh my God, Nate Hobbs is fine, but then
and Nate Hobbs hasn't practiced this week so far. He's got an ankle injury, but we don't even know if he's playing.
So Jacorian Bennett, Jack Jones, Trayvon Moehrig, and Isaiah Ola Mao, whose name I had never heard before the last 8 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, unless, as I wrote about, Kendall Fuller. where did that come from? Kendall Lamb forgets how to block. They're going to light that defense up. I mean, really, honestly, I think you text me about it. Just bring it. Just keep Alec Ingold or Julian Hill or insert player here. Help out with Crosby on every single play. The other 10 can't guard your other 9. They just can't. They cannot. So on offense, I mean, Minshew has been he's been bad. So to your point, it would take what it would take. It would take a 4-pick 2 a day, like something like that, like something absolutely crazy, or a couple of special teams touchdowns. Non-offensive touchdowns is the only way the Dolphins lose that game, which is always a possibility.
You're not suggesting the Dolphins could have breakdowns on special teams?
What would give me any reason to doubt the great job they've done on that side of the ball?
Oh, man. I'm of the belief, and tell me where you stand on this. This is the week we get our offensive explosion of the season that everybody's been waiting for, that we saw last year. And if it's not happening this week, I'm thinking it never happens in 2024. Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I mean, this on paper is the worst defense they'll see the rest of the way, right? I mean, the Patriots aren't great either, so maybe next week. But the Patriots always play them hard. That's the thing. Those divisional games, and just for some reason they know how to gum up this offense. Like, I'm thinking in the McDaniel era, have they just totally lit up the Patriots in any games? Have they put 30 plus on them?
20-7.
It was 21. The 21-14 was the Monday night game or whatever last year.
No, it was 30.
It was Sunday night game.
24-17. I'm going back to 2022. It was 20-7 in Miami in the season opener. McDaniel's first game ever. Then they played at New England with Bridgewater at quarterback. They lost 23-21. And then last year was 31-17 and 24-17.
All right, I'm looking up the defensive plus PFN metrics, which are really cool, and I would suggest anyone who listens to check them out. So we lose a lot. We use a lot of factors, particularly in our quarterback rankings, that maybe others don't. I'm looking up the Patriots this year, their defensive metrics, and this is the game season. Not great. 2024, they are the 24th ranked defense, which isn't terrible, considering how bad that team is. Packers might be better. Are that defense any good?
Yeah, while you look that up, important point about the Patriots, however, is they're getting Christian Barmore back at practice, and that guy's a stud. So
they're not going to see anybody. Who do they got after the Packers? What's that?
Jets.
Okay. Who knows if they're even playing for anything at that point, right? I mean, all of a sudden, we were talking about that, oh my God, that last 6-game stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Texans don't look all that scary. I mean,
they can't pass protect.
No, and wasn't Tunsil hurt too?
Tunsil's dealt with like leg injuries the entire year. Yeah. It's not an ankle, it's a knee and all that.
Okay, so let's play this game then.
Go ahead.
How many wins do you expect this team to get to, and what's their ceiling to get to?
I think their ceiling, and this is dependent upon them. First of all, Tyreek's got to hold up, and this is dependent upon them playing to them. I think we saw Monday night that they can get a complementary game going with offense defense. Having said that, they're going to win the next 2 games. At Green Bay's tough, so that would be one.
They will lose at least one game they shouldn't, right? It's just the nature of it. Maybe Cleveland, maybe Jameis gets hot. I mean, there's at least one game that you're like, oh man, this is a win for the Dolphins. That it won't. Now the flip side is, can they get a win that should be a loss?
Correct.
And I think they can. Do they have to go? Here's the question: do they have to go 2-1 against the Texans, the Packers, and the 49ers? Do they have to go 2-1 in those 3 games?
Yeah, to me, I think at the very least you have to get to 9-8 to make the playoffs. They have 6 losses right now, which, if I do the math, allows them for 2 losses out of their final 8 games. So you lose either at Green Bay or at Houston. Maybe they lose against San Francisco. But out of those 3 games, which are the 3 toughies to me, they can't go 0-3.
No, because then they would have 9 losses.
Correct.
Yeah. No, they absolutely need to win at least one. And of those 3, honestly, I think Houston's the one that looks the best to them, because I think you can score a little bit on Houston. And I mean, CJ Stroud's not the player he was last year. You mentioned pass protection. Their weapons had major issues. Like, their wide receivers were really, really banged up.
Although they're getting Nico Collins back, so that's going to make it.
That will help them, obviously. But I think of those 3, if I'm going to rank the likelihood, honestly, it's probably Houston 1, San Francisco 2, and Green Bay 3. If that is a cold weather game, Thanksgiving night on national TV, like, honestly, if they win that game, I will begin to think, hey, maybe they can make some noise in the playoffs. If you can go up there and win in bad weather or just not favorable weather, that's what you're going to need to do. Because let's be honest, if they get in and set the 7th seed, like, I don't even think they have a chance at the 6th seed, right? I mean, how would they? What would they have to do to get to the 6th seed?
Well, right now the Chargers have the 6th seed, and they're 6-3, and they have a fairly soft schedule remaining. They have at Cincinnati. No, sorry, Cincinnati at home this week. Then they have Baltimore at home, and they still have to play at Kansas City. Outside of that, their other games are manageable. That's the team you would watch for.
Yeah, so I would say it's almost certainly 7 seed or bust for them.
Yeah.
So then you're probably talking one of 2 options: KC or Buffalo. Those are your options. I mean, maybe Baltimore, but I think that division's so tough.
That's much better. That's much better, Bees.
Yeah, they've had such great success at M&T Bank Stadium.
Oh, but here's the thing, though, is and I wrote about this on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. They cleared a big hurdle to me when they won in prime time on the road against not a great team, but a good team, which they hadn't done under Mike McDaniel.
Was that a true road game? Distance, yeah. The odometer says it's a road game, but I think there was at least 40% Dolphins fans in that stadium.
Yeah, no, that's
and that's
stealing my thunder there, Bees.
Houston to me is, I mean, I think that could be kind of similar. Obviously, Texans fans are better than Rams fans, but the Texans fan base isn't great. Like, honestly, in Texas, if you leave that outside of Harris County, you're a Cowboys fan. Like, that entire state, even though the Texans have been probably over the last 20 years at least as competitive as the Cowboys have been, it's always going to be a Cowboys state. And I just you get a game in a dome that'll help this offense, that'll help Tua. I think of those 3, that's the one that's the most likely for them to get.
That's fair. And the one that would be the most significant, you're absolutely right, is if they can win at Green Bay, which would, I think, solve the issue, because you kind of poo-pooed my point a little bit, but you're not entirely wrong. So I'll allow the poo-pooing. We're going to close with a soft discussion. See what I did there? Before we do that, though, let me give out the Thursday injury report, because we do like to keep you updated on what's going on. So Teron Armstead, Calais Campbell both got rest days, didn't practice, which is interesting because the Dolphins did a walkthrough on Wednesday. And so it's not necessarily overly taxing to do a walkthrough, and then they still got a rest day. Not going to question it. Those 2 guys are studs. They want to keep them out the entire week. It's fine with me. Kendall Fuller didn't practice again because of the concussion. He's already not playing. If he were to go on IR on Saturday, wouldn't shock me in the least. Jack Stoll, who was claimed off waivers from the Philadelphia Eagles on Wednesday, did not practice. It was listed as non-injury related. I don't know if he had some traveling issues getting to the facility or something, would be my guess. Limited were Julian Hill with the shoulder, Tyreek Hill with the wrist, Alec Ingold with the calf, Robert Jones with the knee injury, Jordan Poyer rest, limited rest. Interesting. Then this is the one that's a little worrisome, as in let's keep an eye on it. It's Jalen Ramsey with a knee injury, because he popped up on the injury report today, which means in all likelihood he got injured in practice. Could mean nothing. It happened to him, by the way, on the Friday of the New England game in week 5. He did wind up playing. So again, could be the same deal. It could be nothing, but it could be something. We'll know Friday. And then Isaiah Wynn's going to be listed as limited. Again, player designated to return in the first week of practice. Usually that's how it works. Probably wouldn't count on seeing him. And then the other one of note is Odell Beckham Jr. popped up on the injury report with a knee injury, but was a full participant. So Jalen Ramsey's the one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, that defense doesn't really operate without Jalen Ramsey. I mean, that he is – I think, yeah, we saw they got run on without Sealer. I think they would get thrown all over if they didn't have – particularly if Kendall Fuller's not playing, which he's not, clearly. But just the number of things that he is able to do for that defense is not replaceable in any way. So if you were doing a power ranking of most important players, Tua is obviously number one because he's the quarterback. He touches the ball in every play.
Fair.
I would say Ramsey's probably two. You cannot – that defense is so predicated on his versatility. Knock on wood that he's okay, because that would be really bad.
I agree. And I would have fought you on this like last year had you come up with the same ranking, because to me, I think Tyreek would have been higher. But there's been something off with Tyreek all year. Obviously, he's dealt with some injuries, and he's just not quite been the same guy. Obviously, the fact that he had to play with 4 different quarterbacks didn't help. We're going to close, as a promise, with this. Where do you stand on the whole Deshaun Elliott comments about the Dolphins being soft as F, and then the reaction, including the interesting, I don't know if you saw this, the musical choice at practice today, which was a song by Drake called Feel No Ways, with some of the lyrics, including basically don't care what you have to say or something along those lines. I wrote about it on Miami Dolphins on SI. So what's your take on this whole thing?
The message might be sort of right, but it's a terrible messenger. Like, it's terrible. I mean, first of all, I wrote about this yesterday. It 100% reeks of sour grapes. Like 100%, because he was brutally bad for them last year. And I know, like, he was physical, he helped them. He was so bad. Like
in coverage.
Teams
By the way, sorry to interrupt, but Bees, when you said you wrote about it, come on, do the good promo. Wrote about it on Pro Football Network.
ProFootballNetwork.com, yeah.
/
A Beasley if you want to go to my personal channel and see all the awesome Dolphins content I've got. But no, he was a bad player. They moved on because he was a bad player. And Cater was right. Like, he kind of does this crap when he leaves. There's a reason Cater said that yesterday. I think it was a message he had heard internally. I think this is like, hey, we know what we're dealing with here. Let's not, again, flawed messenger. Is the message kind of right? Look, if this team checked out after the Titans game, which he said they did, was we're at Tootsie's till 4 a.m. or whatever the night before practices, that ain't great. I don't know, and I'll ask you this: how much of that is a reflection of the head coach, and how much of that is the reflection of the individuals involved? Because my opinion is
yes.
my good hedge. My opinion is. These dudes are grown men. This is their livelihood. If it's not important enough for them to make it important to them, I mean, I guess is the way to put it. As a head coach, your only option is to get rid of them. Like I don't know. Like, are you going to have curfews on Wednesday nights? You're going to have bed checks at their houses. At some point, there's got to be personal accountability. And if these guys checked out, I would hope that it got back to McDaniel and Greer, and the people involved are no longer here. Like, he didn't name names, which is a coward, way to do it. It really is. To make blanket aspersions is kind of Bush League. But I do think that it is something that I have kind of had the sense that McDaniel may give these guys too much rope. And he needs to, and again, it's not in his character, but he needs to be the disciplinarian more than he is at times, with the understanding. But at some point, you're grown up, act like a grown up.
Agree. And to me, it comes down to do whatever the hell you want on your own time, but make sure you're at the meetings on time where you're supposed to be at the right time, and that you're engaged. And then if that's not happening, this is where the coach has to step in and go.
Here's what I understand. In addition to having 2 nights a week when you can do basically anything you want, right? Or even 3, they don't practice on Tuesdays. So if you want to go out all night Monday, Do it. And in South Florida, you can find something popping off on a Monday night. You can find a way to have a good time. Sundays after games. Now, granted, this week's a weird week because it's a primetime game, cross country, and all that. But if you're playing a Sunday 1:00 home game, go wild. And even Fridays, like Saturdays aren't heavy lift days for them. You really have to be a grown up 4 nights of the week. Saturday, obviously, they're all in lockdown. They're in a hotel.
Correct.
Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. If you can't, where's the camera? If you can't do that for 4 nights over the course of 20 weeks, so you're talking about, training camp. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go out and be at practice 8:30 next morning. So, but you're talking about in season, more or less 80 nights where you have to be a grown up out of the course of 365, and you can't do that. Get the hell off my team. Seriously, goodbye.
No, that's fair. That's a fair point. Well, it certainly provided some headlines for the last couple of days. So thank you, Deshaun Elliott, for that. We like headlines. We like content. And just like Miami Dolphins on SI, Adam Beasley at Pro Football Network's content also is free. All you have to do is go over there and click on the stories. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Thank you again, Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network. Much appreciated. Everyone have a great rest of the evening, and we'll be back here on Friday.